have a question for Golden State Warriors fans, and how you answer this question could change the fate of the Warriors for the next decade. Close your eyes and picture the Golden State Warriors. Who do you see? Is it a young Steph Curry with a fresh-faced Klay Thompson proving to the world that the Splash Brothers belong? Do you see Andrew Bogut throwing the ball to them? Or when you think of the Warriors, do you think of Kevin Durant, the most dominant team potentially ever, back to back? Or maybe when you think of the Warriors, you think of the 22 season, being the underdog, the emergence of Jordan Poole, the resurgence of Andrew Wiggins. I know you don't think of Chris Paul when you think of the Warriors, so where are we now? The NBA trade deadline is coming up in a few weeks, and it's impossible not to feel like this one is different. The Warriors have changed pieces over these championship runs, but this feels like the movie kept playing after the credits. Nobody's happy. Steve Kerr is increasingly talking about the future in interviews, but Steph Curry is on this team right now. And when you ask Steph, he says the right things like, we're not going to mortgage the future or put down your Twitter fingers, but his body language says something else. Steph Curry has the heart of a champion, and he knows this team can't compete for a ring. This brings us to the big question of what are the Warriors? This is where the ship of Theseus comes in. I'll let a Marvel superhero explain it.
The ship of Theseus is an artifact in a museum. Over time, its planks of wood rot and are replaced with new planks. When no original plank remains, is it still the ship of Theseus?
Great job, albino superhero. You don't have to have great vision to realize that the Warriors are at a crossroads. They've already traded many of the pieces that were there in their original championship run. In fact, all they have to show for it are Steph Curry and Draymond Green. But they're still the Warriors. Steph will retire, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 5. But the day that he hangs up his jersey, the Warriors will still exist. And Steph Curry just said this: anyone who thinks I'm okay being on an average basketball team is insane. Steph is not happy. And the Warriors have already made small moves. They just brought in Dennis Schroeder. And so far through 13 games, he has a team worst plus minus of -114. The Warriors are stuck in the middle. In fact, the exact middle. They're currently, as I make this video, 20-20 and tied for 11th in the Western Conference. Even more troubling than that, the Warriors are set up to win now, and half a game behind them is the San Antonio Spurs, a team that wasn't supposed to be winning at all, but Victor Wembanyama defies what is supposed to happen. In fact, the fact that the Spurs are a half game behind the Warriors feels even worse when you realize that the Golden State Warriors had Chris Paul, and they decided that he did not fit their timeline anymore. But just like Chris Paul reacted after being traded multiple times before, he showed he's still capable of playing winning basketball. So this brings us back to the Warriors. Are they going to stay as they are? Surely not. So then they have a decision they have to make. Are you going to go all in and try to win one more ring? Or are you going to trade it all away and build for the future? They can't make a small move. They can't stay in the margins. This season will be an absolute failure and a waste of Curry's legacy if they just trade for a backup center at the deadline. No, they have to pick a clear direction. It's what the fans want. It's not just the body language of the players. You can see it in the fans. They're used to excellence, and this mediocrity, this being a mid-team, does not feel like Warriors basketball. So what do the Warriors do? Do they go all in? What would that even look like? Well, there's trade rumors that have been linked out there. The Chicago Bulls are getting a great season out of Nikola Vucevic, and he's widely available, especially for the types of contracts and draft capital that the Warriors have. And look, I want to be honest. Vooch playing next to Steph Curry would be fantastic offense. And Vooch covers a lot of the flaws that you see from a Draymond. A lack of size, a lack of consistent outside shooting. But is Vooch really enough to take a team that's playing 500 basketball and put them in contention in a Western Conference where 4 or 5 teams can beat you in a series? Is Nikola Vucevic going to put the Warriors ahead of the Oklahoma City Thunder in a 7-game series? We don't see it. And when you look at the other names that are out there, John Collins, Jimmy Butler, Zach LaVine, who is also having an excellent season, these are not enough. to put the Warriors back in contention. And they already beat the odds in 2022. They already defied expert opinion and won a ring as an underdog. It's okay to say they can't do it again. So if they're not going to go all in and try to compete for a ring, what do the Warriors do? Do they blow it up? Not necessarily. You can still get a massive haul for trading Steph Curry. In fact, we saw a Kevin Durant traded at around the same age Curry is right now, and it was one of the biggest hauls of all time. Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, a player that's actually been linked to the Warriors this year, and a bunch of first-round draft picks. You can get 3-4 first-round draft picks and an exciting young player if you decide to trade Steph Curry. Not only that, not only do the Warriors win, but fans of basketball win. We get to see Steph Curry play meaningful playoff basketball. We get to see him find his joy, as Jimmy Butler would say. And Golden State's going to move on because just like the ship of Theseus, it doesn't matter who puts on that Warriors jersey. Change is inevitable, but the fans, they are what makes the heart and soul of the team. And the fans deserve better than this mediocrity. And it's not Steph Curry's fault. He's still playing some inspired basketball. But this team, this roster construction is mid. So why not see Steph Curry traded to the Rockets in a deal with a ton of draft capital and you get Fred VanVleet back? There'll be other contracts that have to be included, but you put Steph Curry on this talented Rockets team. And sure, the Houston Rockets are not a great team from outside, but that's because they're not playing with Steph Curry's gravity. Steph literally lifts the field goal percentage of all players that he plays with. You're going to get higher quality shots when Steph Curry is drawing two defenders at once. And you might not like the Rockets trade, but that's the first one that came to my mind. But you need to consider the historical precedent for this. And you don't need to go any further than the team the Warriors beat in the 2022 finals, the Boston Celtics. At the time, the Celtics were on the rise and their dynasty seemed inevitable. But the Warriors had a little more experience, a little more talent, a little more wisdom at that moment. But the Celtics broke through and they won a ring last year. And they're poised to win another ring this year if you just ignore the shooting slump that they're in right now. But how did the Celtics do this? They did this by taking two older champions on their team, in Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. And when they realized that there wasn't another ring in those players, they did the best thing for the Celtics. And they traded them to the Nets for one of the biggest hauls ever. And what do they get? They end up getting Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And now we're sitting here looking at the Boston Celtics going, this team's a contender for the next 4, 5, 6 years. So, Warriors fans, I asked you a question at the beginning of this. What are the Golden State Warriors? Who are the Golden State Warriors? Do you want to see Steph Curry traded? Or do you want to see them sell the farm, give up on this idea of a 2-timeline system, get rid of Kuminga, get rid of every draft pick from here to Kingdom Come, and go for one more ring? Sound off in the comment section. This is the Trash Talk channel.